And welcome to the Alex Urbina radio show. We're broadcasting live from Newhall, California, right here in your hometown station, KHTS. And we're back in the studio live.
Yes.
Not recorded, but live.
Yes.
Funky fresh in the flesh. Hanging out with my co-host, my beautiful co-host, Ellen Tunick. How's it going today?
It's going, it just got better.
It did. It did.
It just got better.
So today we're going to be talking about the most common dysfunction of a teenager. And I really like this topic because as a parent, whether you're an unconscious parent or a conscious parent, it's a great discussion to talk about so that we could better prepare ourselves as parents to look through a certain set of filters to see our kids with what they could be struggling with and not realizing that they are struggling with something. So I want to just really break down some of the dysfunction I think that they're dealing with just because they're unaware of it. And then before I do that, I want to talk about the word dysfunction.
Yeah, let's break that down.
Well, a lot of times people think it's a negative word, like it's bad or it's a judgmental word. And then I've had my wife tell me, like, why do you use the word dysfunction a lot on the radio? And I try to explain to her, sometimes you have to break down distinctions so people understand what they mean rather than what they've decided it means. Dysfunction is just a neutral word that implies that something's not functioning effectively. But sometimes we hear dysfunction as it's a bad thing,
right?
Or I'm broken, and that's not necessarily the case. Dysfunction just means it's not functioning to the way that I want it to, the way I need it to. It's not working for me.
It's not working.
So if you hear the word dysfunction, first see it for what it is. It just means that something's not functioning properly, or it's not functioning to the way that's producing results for me. I want people to see, when it comes to personal development, I want you to start looking at things that's more from this is working, this is not working, not this is good, this is bad. What you're doing is good, and what you're doing is bad. Let's take those out.
And wrong.
Yeah, because good, bad, and wrong implies some guilt, right? And then we wrap the guilt blanket on us because I'm not doing it the right way,
or the way other people think I should be doing it,
or doing it the wrong way, right? And so let's take those words out and let's use the word effective or ineffective. So dysfunction is just the way that we're functioning in our life that's not effective. And one of the major dysfunctions we have is that as human beings, we have limiting beliefs about the world, ourselves, our family, and we have limiting beliefs about the way that things happen. So, for example, I want you to think of one limiting belief that you might have that you didn't know you had before.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. A limiting belief for me that I think I've identified is that it was not okay to love myself, that I needed to always be taking care and reaching out. Otherwise, it was selfish, that focusing on me, being okay, loving myself, and thinking I'm great was not okay.
Yeah, like you're conceited if you love yourself.
Selfish. Don't be selfish. I heard it all my life.
You're selfish if
think of other people, not
if you
yourself.
put yourself first, right?
Yes.
Now that's a belief.
Yes.
Now, sometimes that belief can benefit you, and then sometimes it can limit you.
It was very limiting for me.
Okay, so because it was a limiting belief, it was ineffective when it came to your own peace, your own joy.
It always created conflict, internal conflict.
So I want you to be open to the possibility that your kids have hundreds of limiting beliefs about themselves.
I see it all the time. I hear it all the time.
Yeah, that may not necessarily be real.
Most of the time it's not.
Yeah, because it's just a belief. And our beliefs, because we've created them, we see them as the truth. And we interact as though it's the truth or that it's real because I've created it and I've believed it for so long.
That it must be true.
It must be true. So here's an example. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not talented enough. Where would we come up with these limiting beliefs or these stories that we've created in our head? Where do you think, as little kids, we could easily come up with this based on who we're living with?
We either hear it or feel it from our parents.
That's right. So growing up in my home, or as you are listening here, you grew up in the home you were growing up in, and either you heard certain things that your parents would say to you that you made up limiting beliefs about yourself. And your kids growing up in your home, being managed by you and parented by you, certain things you said or didn't say, they made limiting beliefs about themselves.
Right.
That aren't necessarily real. They've also made limiting beliefs about you as the parent. My mom doesn't really love me. My dad cares more or loves his ex-girlfriend or his new wife or his girlfriend more than he loves me. And we can go all the way down a list of and limiting beliefs.
That sister is prettier than I am, and
right.
that brother is smarter than I am.
I'll never be as talented as my brother.
Right. I'll never live up to those standards.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we make those up as little children because we aren't wise enough, mature enough, conscious enough. Our brains we haven't developed yet enough a way to think of different, more empowering beliefs.
And nobody's told them.
Right. So we default to, well, it must be me.
It's always me.
I must not be a good enough son, and that's why my dad left my mom. If only I was a good enough daughter, my parents would be together.
I could have changed
So imagine walking around with
that's heavy load.
All that heavy load because you made up these stories about yourself, your family, your world, your relationships that aren't necessarily real. And it's not until you have a conscious awakening and somebody points this out to you that you start to examine that.
Question them.
And look at them and go, wait a minute, where did I come up with this? At what point in my life?
I didn't even know you could question them. It's like, well, this is how it is. Why would you question it? Until I was offered the opportunity to say, why not?
Yeah, let's look at them.
Let's look at it. What's the possibility that maybe that's not real?
So let's talk about how a limiting belief could be created in the first place. And I always have this story that I tell all the time. My kids laugh because they already know the story like the back of their hand. But it's a story about a little kid, right? He's in kindergarten. And he's really excited because his teacher gave him a good grade on his homework that he turned in. And when mom comes, she's so excited to share this good news with mom. And he's validated in that moment, right? In his glory. Yes. He can't wait to get home now to talk to mom because dad's going to validate him next. And when he gets to his dad's office, he gets in there and goes, Dad, look what I got. And Dad says, not right now, son. What do you think he hears?
He obviously hears, I'm not important. It doesn't matter.
My dad doesn't care.
And my dad doesn't care.
Now, those beliefs are limiting beliefs. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Would you also agree that his dad is not really implying that?
No, he's not. I would totally agree with that.
So that child, because he doesn't know how to rationalize, maybe my dad's frustrated. Maybe my dad's afraid of whatever, maybe he's worried about bills, or maybe he's got a lot on his mind. He can't distinguish something that's going on with dad versus something that I think is wrong with me.
I'm listening to you, and it just makes me so sad because this is more of a norm in our families today, I believe, than, being conscious of where our children are. And, it just makes me really sad. But one step at a time, one bite at a time, we can learn to look at it a different way and be more present.
And that's why I think we're having the show, is to be able to have dialogues about things like this. talk about these kinds of things so parents can listen in and go, oh my God, I didn't realize that. I didn't know that that's what my Johnny or my Melissa could be struggling with.
Right. And I think also, to be able to tell parents it's okay. The fact that you're even realizing it now is amazing. Don't beat yourself up over what you didn't know, because today is today and you can turn it all around.
That's right. It's the awareness that you discover in the moment is the only moment that you can actually discover it, because had you had an opportunity to learn it before, you would have.
Right.
Exactly, right?
Right.
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know until all of a sudden it becomes clear
Something
for you.
that you learn and know.
So the question is once it clicks for you and you go, oh my God, I get it now. Then it helps you now be a different kind of parent, more compassionate, more understanding, and realizing that that's what they could be struggling with.
Right. I mean, and in today's world where there's so much going on and you've got, both parents working and you've got, music lessons, sports lessons, you've got all this stuff going on. By the time you get home, or in your interaction when you're picking Johnny up and then you got to, throw Johnny in the back of the car to go get Sarah, you lose that consciousness of what's going on.
Yeah. So think about now your son or daughter, if you realize they have these limiting beliefs, how do you support them now? How do you shift your parenting in a way that you support them, knowing that that's what they're struggling with?
I think for me, even though it's, my kids are, adults with families of their own, I have learned with my kids and my grandkids is to just take a breath and be very present with what they're saying when they come to me. I never turn them away. I never use the just a minute or wait a minute or I'll be back to you. I really want to stay right there and hear what it was that they needed to tell me.
A lot of times as parents, when we're interacting with our kids and our kids get upset or angry, the first thing that does not come to our mind is that we don't realize that we could have just triggered something that validated their own limiting belief. But if I'm learning it as a parent, then I'm more aware now when Melissa gets upset and storms off into a room and slams the door, and I'm going, what did I say?
Right.
I may not really be realizing that I could have just validated something that she believes is true about herself. That she's made up this belief that, see, there I go again, I'm not good enough. And by sometimes just in our parenting, we validate that for them. For example,
it's not intentional.
Not
we just
intentional,
do it.
right?
It's just a habit.
And sometimes I'll ask a parent, is there a reason why you said what you said? And they'll say to me, because I want the best for them, or I know that they got more in them. And then I have to talk about, okay, but the way that you said it, do you think there's different ways you could have said it that wouldn't have validated their own limiting belief
and triggered those feelings
about
that
themselves?
come up?
Right.
Yeah.
That's why words are important.
They're so important. They're so powerful. They're hugely
and
powerful.
And if you realize you're using a certain word, that keeps validating for them that they're not smart enough, they're not pretty enough.
They have no idea that you just want the best for them, that you're just pushing them to succeed. They don't know that.
That's because on their end, from their filters, they keep collecting evidence that you don't love them, and you don't want them to win, and you're not supportive of them.
Yeah. And they're just throwing it in the bucket.
Yeah. And it's amazing. If I had a video camera, could video both sides of dialogues from mom and dad and son and daughter. And then I could play back the video for the parents and go, okay, see right here, when you said this is what they were hearing. And the parents would be baffled. They'd be like, oh my God, I see it now.
Yeah.
I couldn't see that from my end as I'm saying it.
Well,
but if you replay it, and I'm now looking from my daughter's eyes and knowing her own insecurities, now I'm hearing what you're telling me she's hearing.
Well, I think parents get very caught up in their own personal agendas when they're talking. and they're not paying attention because they've got to get the agenda out. They're not paying attention to body language, the eye contact. That tells you a lot as to how that person is receiving the information.
And I agree with you. And if that's the case, then we're going to invite parents to step up to another level of parenting, a conscious parenting level, where you are noticing those things. And you are looking at your son or your daughter as they're listening to you. And you're also observing how you're saying what you're saying to be responsible for how it's perceived and how it's landing over there.
Right.
Rather than, hey, I'm just saying what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, great.
What's your problem?
Okay, great. I get that you're just saying what you're saying. And I get it's your son or daughter's responsibility to perceive it the way you're saying. And we can all hide behind that forever.
Doesn't work.
But if it's not effective and your son or daughter are still upset at you, still angry at you, still depressed, they're still not thriving in their life, you just get to be right about that's just how you're saying it. But something's not, your communication is not landing from where I know it's coming from, and it's probably coming from your heart. Just because you love someone and you're giving them feedback or advice from their heart doesn't mean that it's landing like that over on the other end.
It's just making you feel better.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's not necessarily making them feel better. And it's so interesting because even though we're, speaking to the small child, the adolescent. I'm
not talking about just adolescent.
Okay.
I'm talking about
people in general.
I'm talking about teenagers. But you can take it as a 5-year-old, as a 7-year-old.
But I can also take it as a 45-year-old.
Absolutely.
For example, had a conversation with, with one of my older daughters, and some comments were made, and I realized I could have taken them and gone, what in the, and gotten very agitated over them and, how dare you and, blah, blah, blah. I was actually able to just stop in that moment and say, hey, sweetie, what was going on for you when you made those comments? And then a whole different story came up. And I was able to realize it had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with where she was at that moment, and we were able to just move through that.
And that's amazing that you consciously can.
I don't do it all the time.
I know, but we'll just take this one moment. Yeah. It's a great moment. It's great that you can stop yourself, notice that you could automatically make a story up or validate a limiting belief, but you're not going to, and then you're going to courageously ask them so they can validate it or not. And then got the right meaning.
Because I don't think they knew the meaning.
I get it, but on your part, you were conscious enough to stop, not react, not make stuff up, correct, and then ask them, and then get it clarified so that you can move on.
Right.
On top of that, the next level to that is you can actually do that and not even have a discussion with that person.
Okay.
All on your side of the fence.
Okay.
So I'm going to just drop the nugget before we go on the break.
Okay.
And then if we want to talk about it more, we can. But let's say they said something to you that appeared to be rude, or it was a stab at you, or however it was. You can actually walk away from that, framing it in your own mind that, wow, maybe she's really struggling with something right now. You know what? I know her real heart. I know she doesn't really mean that. And it's just a coping mechanism for her. It was her defense mechanism. You can rationalize that all up in your own noggin up there, because you're the meaning maker to your own reality. You make up your own meaning up in your head.
That goes back to I want to fix it.
That's right. No, but either way, whether you actually justified it in your head that it's about her stuff and it's not not about you. But I like your version as well, where you just flat out say, hey, honey, I don't want to make up these stories. You said these things that kind of, it hurt my heart a little bit. Why were you saying that?
Yeah,
where were you saying that from?
Where?
And then once you open up that safe space, you can say, I'm sorry, whatever it was, I'm just, under a lot of pressure right now. And then out of their mouth, they can validate.
Right.
See? It
Exactly,
really wasn't about me.
And it ended, it ended in a beautiful space.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to point out that there can be two different versions, that we don't really need somebody to have to validate that that's not what they meant. We can just do it in our own head without people, because we're the meaning maker to our own reality. All right, we're going to come back from break. Stay tuned for more of the Alex Urbina Radio Show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
There are times when nothing else will do because you know exactly what you want. You want the Alamo, the taste of true Mexican cooking at its best. At Alamo, you're treated to a taste that is truly Mexican with an atmosphere to match. Enjoy a Cadillac margarita, try a mucho burrito, or sizzling fajitas. Voted the best Mexican food in the SCV and a favorite of former supervisor Mike Antonovich. Alamo Rotisserie in Granary Square, serving Santa Clarita for over 30 years.
Coming to the Canyon, Santa Clarita, Blue Oyster Cult, Doc Inn, Rat, Molly Hatchet, Ace Frehley, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Los Lobos, Carly Pierce with an opening set by Savannah Burrows, Missing Persons, Flock of Seagulls, join former members of Oingo Boingo at their Halloween party, Smash 'em Up comedian Gallagher, and many more. Borderline Country Nights every Thursday, Salsa every Monday, and the Canyon is the perfect place to host special events. So call 818-661-7237 to book yours today. The Canyon, Santa Clarita, where music meets the soul. Tickets available through Ticketmaster.
Every year, thousands of local children, teens, and adults receive treatment at the Child and Family Center for depression, anger, anxiety, abuse, thoughts of suicide, and drug and alcohol addictions. Our professional staff provides outpatient services at office locations, in the home, the community, and on many elementary, junior, and high school campuses throughout our valley. If you need help, contact Child and Family Center at 259-9439 or childfamilycenter.org. Improving lives, one family at a time.
It's the Child and Family Center's premier fundraising event, Taste of the Town, Sunday, May 5th at Innovation Park. Enjoy the culinary magic of 40 of the area's best restaurants. For more information, go to tasteofthetown.com.
We all know sometimes people lose their way. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, the Way Out Recovery SCV may have the answers you've been waiting for. The Way Out is the premier intensive outpatient treatment center serving Santa Clarita. Asking for help is the first step. Call The Way Out today, 661-296-4444. That's 296-4444 for a private free assessment. The Way Out is an accredited, affordable outpatient program that accepts most insurance. Call us at 661-296-4444 or check us out online at thewayOutRecoveryscv.com. Quit battling with yourself. Ask The Way Out for help today.
Hometown, your hometown station.
And welcome back to the Alex Urbina Radio Show, broadcasting live from Newhall, California. Today we're talking about the most common dysfunction of a teenager. And we've been talking about the limiting belief that as human beings we create when we're young. And if you didn't know you had a limiting belief, you have them. You just might not be aware you have them.
Tons of them.
And it's through the conscious awareness and the awakening and the noticing and observing of, if I do have limiting beliefs, what are they? And when did I create them? And so I like giving examples of when we could have possibly created a limiting belief. And so earlier, before the show, or the first half of the show, I gave one about the little boy who came home looking for validation from his dad. And when his dad said, "Not right now, son," he made up a belief, 3 of them. I'm not important to you. My dad doesn't care. And those kinds of things, right? And it's simple. It's something simple like that. But dad didn't mean that, and that wasn't his intention. He just meant not right now, son.
Yeah,
right?
it was simple to
Yeah,
dad.
yeah, exactly. But as human beings, when your brain doesn't can't come up with anything else, like, oh my God, don't you realize I'm your son, the one you say you love the most?
And why is it that, that children, I think children aren't all that honest with or authentic. I mean, they haven't been taught how to express their feelings. Like Johnny could have said, "Dad, you really just hurt my feelings," right? And Dad would have said, "Okay."
I would love to see those kinds of kids. You have to you have to develop those kinds of kids to be like that. So when they're 2 or 3 years old, you have to sit them down and go, "Honey, how did that feel? Mom, it hurt." And how did it hurt? Like, you have to walk them through this process of asking them questions so they can self-reflect.
And why does that not come naturally? Kids blurt out all sorts of stuff. Why is it that the human has a hard time blurting out what they feel?
Well, some will. You'll have out of 1,000 kids, you'll have maybe 10 or 20 that will they're just wired like that. They'll just say, "Dad, you hurt my feelings. Like, that was mean." There are some of those kids, but for the majority of kids, 95%
they just shove it in. They keep it,
we stay quiet
on the down low.
Yeah, because that's my dad. My mom and dad are my king and queen, and
you never want to disappoint them.
We look up to them. We're looking
them.
for their approval, and we're seeking their validation, approval. So we just take it quietly and go back to our room with
it in the bucket
with our made-up limiting beliefs that my dad doesn't really care about me. But what's crazy about that is, once I create that limiting belief, now for the rest of my life, I look for evidence to prove it. See, my dad really doesn't care. So
as a parent, let's say you're now open to this opportunity to understand about, being more present, being a conscious parent. Is it very different for little children, or, doing it with an adolescent? I mean, is there a different structure on how you become this conscious parent? Because adolescents are very challenging and different. How do you help them get all the way back when those limiting beliefs started?
It's just through opening up an awareness. First, you have you first have to open up the concept, the possibility that they could have some beliefs that they've created that aren't necessarily real or true. The same way that we're having this discussion now, I'm opening up the possibility for all the listeners that are listening for the very first time or hearing it for the very first time that, hey, maybe you as an individual have your own limiting beliefs that you've created from your past, from your childhood.
But adolescents don't like to talk, period. Adolescents are at least I found adolescents tend to be very closed.
Now, is that the truth or a belief?
I think it's just been some experiences that I have had.
But when you say it,
it's just a belief from some experiences.
Is it a positive belief or a limiting belief?
It's a limiting belief.
So a great example of what a limiting belief is. Yeah. Most kids aren't open to talking. That's a limiting belief.
Yeah. You have to create the situation that makes them feel safe.
Yeah, because for me, that's not the truth. You can
testify to that.
I can sit down with a kid, not even know him or her, and in 15 minutes, because of who I'm being and how I've opened myself up and what I've revealed, and the connection that I've created with them, they just start telling me their whole life story. So it's not the truth that kids don't like to talk or don't want to share.
They just don't feel safe sometimes to share that information.
Yes, from my experience, not that it's the truth, but from my experience, if kids don't feel like they're going to be embraced or there's this neutral space for them to share where they're not getting judged or told what they should or shouldn't be doing, then they're not going to. But no person is.
Correct.
No human being is going to open up and share if they feel or sense that what they're going to share
And if
or
that's
reveal is
been
not
their
gonna be-
experience
That's right.
growing up.
That's right.
So, okay, so if that's been an experience for, a child growing up and they're now 13 or 14 years old, and now all of a sudden mom and dad have the aha moment, okay? How do they express that to their kids? Because it used to be like that, and now it's going to be like this.
This is the part that I love the most, because this happens a lot with my clients that I coach as parents. I tell them, there's many different ways to get your kids to either want to come work with you and me, or do some coaching, or be open to letting me help you guys as a family. But the greatest way that it's happened in all the, 250th clients that I've coached as parents with their kids, the most common, most powerful way is when the parent first decides that they want to be coached and decide that they want to be a better parent, a better communicator, better in relationships, be more effective as a parent. And then when you're excited about that, you go and share that with your kids. You go back home at dinner, you tell Melissa and Johnny, me and Dad want to share some exciting news with you. We got ourselves a life coach, and he's really helping us learn and understand how to be a better parent. And what we're realizing is, and this is where the authentic, honest, revealing comes in. What we realize, Melissa and Johnny, is that we haven't always been fair to you guys. And tonight we got some clarity that maybe we project our own fear on you guys. And when we're frustrated, we can't manage our emotions, and sometimes we dump that on you, and I'm so sorry. And so maybe it's the cleanup phase that really impresses your kids.
Wow, the cleanup phase.
Or just the owning up and cleaning up, or being excited. And what happens?
And as they sit there and just
with
their eyes open.
They're dumbfounded because they've never heard you talk like that.
Right.
They've never heard you be so honest and blunt and reveal. They've never heard you take responsibility for your parenting before, in some cases.
Right.
So they're really intrigued. First they're shocked, and then they're intrigued. The greatest story or feedback I get with a lot of them, out of those 250, maybe I've heard it in about a dozen or two, but it sounds the same. And it sounds almost like, Alex, you're not going to believe this. We were at the dinner table, and we knew we had to get to our appointment tonight. And Christine and Tommy started cleaning the table, and we're like, "What are you guys doing?"
Getting you out.
You got to get to your coach, and we're helping you.
I love that.
And they were just like, "Wow!" And there's different versions like that, but when I love to hear those stories.
Oh, for sure.
And it's so empowering. And so I tell people, it's not the first time I heard that. It sounded in different versions, but that's a good sign, because what it's saying to your kids is, or what your kids are saying to you is, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, we like who you're being and who you've been showing up the last week or two as you've been doing this work with your coach, whoever he is or she is. Keep doing it, because
we'll help.
We like that, Mom. We like that, Dad.
We'll do our part. So you can get there.
And all of a sudden, they're now showing up. They're showing up different because you're showing up different. See, a lot of parents don't realize that if you see a dysfunction in your kid, you don't realize that at some point you're the source or the cause of that dysfunction. And if you start tweaking something over here, they start untweaking themselves over there. It's pretty amazing phenomenon. What you see over there that's happening, whether it's your kids or your husband or your wife, if you're willing to look at yourself and do some tweaking and some shifting, you'll start to see them shift a little bit. And that doesn't mean 100%.
Right.
But
there's a response.
But I want you to look at how to be responsible of looking at how you might be causing that dysfunction over there by either what you're doing, not doing, what you're saying, what you're not saying,
how you think about something,
who you're being, who you're not being,
all
of everything that's happening here. How can I be causing that over there?
So
that's powerful.
What do you say to parents? Because just because you are open to this, change in parenting style doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. And how do you coach parents in, 2 steps forward, 1 step back? Because for kids, it's like, you're doing great, you're saying all, a lot of wonderful things, and then stuff happens that day and you take a step back.
I'm bluntly honest with the parents. I tell them, you unconsciously you have been parenting your son or daughter unconsciously for X amount of time. Do you agree or not? And they'll say,
of course.
Yeah. It hurts, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first step. But don't live in any illusions that if you've been doing that for such a long time, that just 2 or 3 sessions or
It's
2 or
gonna
3
go away.
nights, you're going to turn it around. And every kid or every child or every family has its, what I call a number. So if you're showing up differently, if it's a third time, some kids will just, boom, they'll shift right away. Some it's 12, for some it's 30, for some it's a year and a half.
Wow.
It depends. But if you really look at it, it's the amount of times that I've done some damage that I have to walk those steps back.
Okay.
And then it's also the amount of honesty that you're willing to put forth moving forward, the amount of willingness to be courageous and own up to your stuff and do some cleanup. If you're working really hard on this new front, you'll start to see the results dial back. But if you're taking my coaching and you're just kind of slow rolling it and implementing it once
Little
a week,
bits, throwing some
once a
things
week,
out.
you're not
I
course
just-
correcting it fast enough. But I have parents that they get really excited and they're like students,
Right.
and they're absorbing the information and the instructions and the homework I give them, and that next week they can cause profound results because of the committed effort that they put into.
But it's also, like you said, 100% change doesn't happen overnight, and old behaviors sometimes come back up.
Yeah, because they've been that specific way for such a
Right.
long time that you don't realize that has become their identity. It's all they know.
their norm.
Let's say you have a kid that's really stubborn.
I had a couple of those.
Yeah, exactly. And they've been stubborn since they were 4, right? And just no, or they're immovable, or
Right.
they'll go to bed without dinner, or they'll cry themselves to sleep
yeah.
because they're so stubborn. But if they've been doing that chronically for 16 years, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden now you realize how you played a part in it, and you're willing to go in there, and now you realize how it can affect them now as a young adult or
Yes.
as a full-grown
Yes.
adult in the world. They're going to be struggling. So
Yes.
you have this awakening and this awareness, and so it's going to take some time for you to develop this kind of relationship with your son or daughter, that stubbornness slowly, they give up that racket. They have to slowly, a little bit of time, surrender the racket of being stubborn like that.
And, I also think when you, do make that, that trip that we all do, it's okay to say, check yourself verbally in front of them and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. That was some old behavior. And that's not who I want to be. So let's go back and, let me say that a different way, because, kids will be great. And then when you make one mistake, they're going, see, told you.
Yeah.
Right?
They're collecting evidence that, see, that wasn't.
Yeah.
You're
not going to really do this.
You're full of hot air.
Yeah.
But if you
You're
catch
blowing
yourself,
smoke, Dad.
yourself and say, hey, I know I made this promise to you a week ago, and I just caught myself again.
Right.
My coach told me this would happen. I mean, you could blame me.
Yeah.
If I'm your coach, hey, my coach told me this was going to happen. I was going to fall off, but as long as I was courageous enough to own it and
be
clean
honest.
it up.
Right.
So Tommy, is it okay for me to clean it up? What are they going to tell you? No. You know what I mean? They're going to be like, yeah, you can clean it up, and then you just go, all right. Hey, I messed up. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's part of
The
me,
process.
It's part of me relearning how to trust you, or not let my fear come in, or take my anger out on you, because I've just been used to that for such a long time. You don't realize how much kids love
To hear
you own up to whatever mistake you've made.
to be real.
But yeah, and here's the crazy thing about it: as you're practicing that, they're learning by virtue of watching you, because you're modeling a new behavior.
Right.
You're modeling something that's new, and it's inspiring, whether they will ever admit it to you or not.
Right.
So if you ever want to see your kids own up and just tell the truth, I want you to start saying, if Johnny is this liar and can't tell the truth, I need to learn how to display what it's like to own up and be honest with be more honest with him verbally, and show him more examples of what that looks like. And I'm not saying you as a mom or dad aren't honest. You can be 98% honest in your life, but if he doesn't see it,
right, for whatever reason.
Yeah. So you might have to start showing little Johnny what honesty looks
What it
like.
looks like,
And
what
you're
it
going to have
feels
to
like.
over-enhance it, and you're going to have to, put words to it, and you're going to have to
Right.
express it and show them what it looks like more times than when you're just being honest inside of you behind closed doors or behind the curtain.
It's
Because the more he sees it, the more he sees that honesty, he's going to start grabbing onto those new
Right.
behavior patterns.
okay.
You got stumped by the
I did.
time for the commercial. We'll be right back. Stay tuned for more of the Alex Urbina radio show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
Take me out.
Santa Clarita, bedbugs are taking over our city. They've invaded our homes, our businesses, and most importantly, our sleep. If you have suspicious bites that appear nightly or have a bug that you need ID'd, your best option is to make one call to All Pro. We offer a 100% guarantee that your bedbug issues will be solved with heat in one treatment. No need to tent or spray your house with chemicals. Heat is all you need. Call 661-298-2200 or text me a bug picture to 661-645-0540. It's time to sleep tight again, STV.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association is celebrating our 30th anniversary at the Hyatt Regency Friday, November 1st. This year, there's a free art show from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. filled with multiple art demonstrations, musical entertainment, a fine art exhibition, silent auction, jewelry booths, and more in the Grand Ballroom. The ticketed gala begins at 5 with entertainment by Lance Allen, a live auction led by Councilman Bob Keller, followed by our Art Awards ceremony. Purchase tickets for only $25 at santaclaritaartist.org.
It's rodeo time, California, at the Ram PRCA California Circuit Finals Rodeo. October 4th, 5th, and 6th at the AV Fair and Event Center. Bulls, broncs, barrels, and more. It's non-stop edge of your seat rodeo action. Visit avfair.com for tickets. Use promo code RODEO4. That's rodeo and the number 4 for $10 off your tickets.
Restrictions apply.
Championship Rodeo, October 4th, 5th, and 6th at the AV Fair and Event Center. Tickets at avfair.com.
Your hometown station, KHTS.
And welcome back to the Alex Urbina radio show, where today we're talking about the most common dysfunction of a teenager, and we have been talking about the core issue, which is limiting beliefs. We have these limiting beliefs that we've created when we were young. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. My mom doesn't really care about me the way she says. And we make up all these stories or narratives that lives up in a little box up in our head that we see as what we think is real or the truth. And it's not real, and it's not necessarily the truth. They're just stories we've made up, and we could very unconsciously be collecting evidence to validate that they are true or real when they might not be. Now, can they be? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
If your dad is really mean or abusive, yeah, you could have have a belief that matches up with what's really happening on their end with their intention. And so I don't want to discredit all of your beliefs. I only want to look at...
Some of them are wonderful,
I want to
too.
look at the limiting beliefs that might not necessarily be real or true.
Or
Just
serve you today.
yeah, and if you're that serves you, that doesn't serve, it served you when you were 4 years old,
Right.
Because you needed to make that belief
no
to
longer.
cope. But now you're a 30-year-old woman, and now you still don't trust people in your life, wondering why you don't have great relationships and why you're not happy. So you have to really be aware of these limiting beliefs, consciously aware, heightened awareness to look at them, and then go through like your old. Do you ever have a toy chest, a toy box when you were a kid?
I had a toy box. My kids had toy
Did
boxes.
you ever have toys in there you haven't used for years or broken pieces?
I have things in my house that I come up upon and go, I don't really need this anymore.
Yeah, so sometimes you got to go back
into this morning.
into your toy box of beliefs and just start going, this doesn't work. This hasn't worked for me. This one's sabotaging my relationships with my husband. This one's has a distrust with my wife. This one's not supporting my kids. And so you got to toss out the limiting beliefs that aren't working for you. They're just not effective. and then start replacing them with
New
powerful,
toys.
positive affirmations that end up creating positive beliefs that support you in your life.
I think it's, for me, it's a ever-changing model. It's like I may release an old belief that wasn't working, replace it with something that's working. But now I'm also open to the fact that a year down the road, I may have to release that one too.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because you leave one behind, replace it with another one, doesn't mean that one needs to stay there forever.
That's right. So don't be attached
to the belief
to your
systems.
belief, to any of your beliefs. Just always be checking in to see if it's working for you or not.
Right.
If it's working for you, stay with
Great.
it. If it's not working for you, it's time
Bye-bye.
to let it go and then create a more empowering one. Now, before we run out of time, after the limiting belief, because the limiting belief is underneath the surface. That's at the core. That's the root cause, right? But then sprouting from the roots of limiting belief, the tree that comes out of the ground, we're going to label it fear. Some of your teenagers have tremendous amounts of fear regarding or surrounding certain topics. And so fear sometimes is a dysfunction that's not helping your kids operate or function effectively in their life. So fear paralyzes your kids. Fear causes them to not tell the truth. Fear is one of the main reasons why your kids are struggling. But as parents, we don't often go, you know what, maybe my son's afraid. Maybe my daughter's talking back to me like that because she's afraid. Or we don't ever consider it a lot of times. We just dismiss that my son or daughter could be up against some fear. And if we gave ourselves permission to acknowledge that maybe they're just afraid and that's what caused them to act out the way they did, then maybe we can stop making it about me. You're dishonoring me. You're being disrespectful to me. I can't believe you did that to me.
To me.
Yeah, instead of, you know what, maybe
they're going through a lot.
Yeah, instead of turning to your wife and go, you know what, maybe Johnny's just got a lot of fear right now. Maybe he's just afraid.
Let's unravel that.
Let's
for
talk.
him. Let's help him.
Yeah, let's have a discussion. Open that up and let him get it out and see if we can help him pass that. But a lot of times as parents, we go into the why are you doing this to me, right? Instead of
where does that come from? They're just children.
I think because we see our kids as a reflection of ourselves.
Okay.
So let's say your kids or son or daughter's out on a Saturday afternoon and they're at the mall and they're in their pajamas and their fluffy sandals. And your girlfriend calls you up going, yo, I just saw your daughter. She's
looking a little at the mall.
So we kind of, as parents,
how could she do that?
Yeah. We look at like that's who you're being out in the world is a reflection of who I am. And so
now I'm being judged.
Yeah, so now our fears come up and then we project it onto them and so forth. So now limiting beliefs at the core, and then one of the roots that pops out a tree on the outside of the ground, the foundation is going to be a fear tree. Another root that pops out from limiting beliefs is doubt. So sometimes our kids are in doubt. They doubt that things are possible. They doubt themselves. They doubt their future.
They doubt the world. They doubt,
They're insecure because they doubt. They have a lot of doubt surrounding their outlook. So a lot of times when we think, again, it's about me, it's about us, why are you doing that to me? Just stop and think maybe he or she's dealing with some fears and some doubts that ultimately end up becoming your son or daughter's insecurities.
Right.
So your son and daughter's insecurities are filled with fears and doubts that are being rooted from a limiting belief
beliefs
that they might have about themselves. And all of that dysfunction is all about, it's all happening on their side of the fence.
Right.
Not on yours.
Not
and
on
so
yours.
So it's very challenging for me to not take that personal because you're not listening to me,
right.
Because you're not
should have
going
done
along
a better
with,
job.
Yeah.
It's if you take your ego out of it and just put your parental ego away and just listen. You don't have to fix it. You just have to listen, because sometimes I think they want to just hear themselves.
Yeah, and then the next thing I'm gonna give is stop taking it personal, mom, dad,
Grandma.
grandma.
Grandpa.
It's not personal. And when you come to me calling me, and I get your frustration. You're frustrated because things aren't going the way
you planned.
Well, whether you planned it or intuitively, okay, they're on a course that's not going to support them. But a lot of times we have energy on it. And a lot of times I feel like as a parent, you're taking it personal. And I need you to not take this personal. I need you to know that whatever dysfunction your teen or your youngster is going through, it's normal. That's
all part of the process.
That's why they're a teenager, and those years are going to start kind of showing you where you need to make some course corrections. However, the course corrections aren't necessarily on their end. The course corrections need to start on your side of the fence, so that you can do some work, prep yourself, create a foundation, and then you can start creating a relationship with them that they trust you. Once you have the trust, now you can start to influence them both by your own growth and your own journey, as well as planting seeds. And that is a whole discussion all in itself.
All into
and
itself.
a whole other topic. And that's all the time we have. But we're here every Friday. Thanks for joining us on the Alex Urbina radio show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.